Welcome. My name is Jill Moore, and I am the Executive Director here at Great River Arts. And I would really like to welcome you on behalf of my staff and my Board of Directors, and of course, Mr. Charles Kapsner. This is our 9th annual Kapsner Salon. So the 9th year that we've done this. I've been in this position now for 5.5 years. So this is my 5th one. And this truly has become my favorite event of the year. It is amazing to me how many new faces I get to see, and also how many familiar faces I get to see as we celebrate a wonderful artist and a wonderful friend. So I want to thank you for being here. It's a wonderful opportunity for Great River Arts because we get to show off a lot of really awesome talent. And in our main gallery, we have the Central Minnesota watercolorists. And then, of course, in the front gallery and retail space, we have the Collaborations 2 exhibit with Charles Kapsner and the Arts Guild of Central Minnesota. So it's really an honor to be here. I want to welcome you. I hope we have a really great evening in store. Charles has done an amazing job planning the evening. And then, of course, we have entertainment by the George Maurer Trio, which is, I know, very, very exciting. We love having them around, as always. Great friends, great talent. So enjoy your evening, and with that, I'm going to welcome our mayor, Greg Zilka. I'm not sure where he is. I don't see him, but oh, there he comes. I see him in the back. So welcome, Mayor Greg Zilka.
On behalf of the City of Little Falls, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Another great evening and another great evening showing Charles wares and the art talents of many in our community. Some great things have happened already tonight. I picked up 2 votes in the next election, so may have just doubled my total. The arts in Little Falls, 10 years ago, I was probably very unaware of how many talented people we had in our community and how many great supporters we have in our community. It makes me real proud to walk in this building and actually see what was done to it, and you can look around and see what we really have here and what's in store for us tonight. Charles and I graduated together. Been a great supporter of his. Proud to call him a friend. I tell the story about our career paths going along exactly the same until about 9th grade. He started to separate himself. Our 9th grade art project, most of you have heard this stupid story before, but Charles loves it because it paints me in a rather poor light and really enhances his abilities. Not that he needs me to do that, but in 9th grade for my art project, I had Rod Eastby, I'll never forget it, and I took a bar of Ivory soap because back in 1967, that might have been the only bar soap made. And I carved this beautiful fish. And my instructor gave me a B, only because he was the basketball coach and I was on the team, because it was F-worthy. And most 5th graders could have done much better. So at that point, I kind of realized I better find a different line of work. And so up until then, I think we were very similar in talents, but then something about all the things that Charles does that do not parallel at all that little white fish that I carved. So without boring you anymore, thanks again for being here tonight. Continue to support the arts in our community. I think it really sets us apart from a lot of the small communities. You look at what Brainerd and what St. Cloud have, and I'll match this up against any arts anywhere in central Minnesota and a lot of greater Minnesota. So keep up the great work to all the artists, and thank you for being here this night. Have a great evening.
Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to Salon 2017 on this beautiful fall evening. And I've decided to script myself tonight, otherwise I'd forget half of what I was going to say. So, each year I bring a different flavor to the event, yet maintain continuity, ensuring that it is both collaboration and celebration of artists from many realms. This year I have 8 visual artists from the Artists Guild of Central Minnesota and 2 from our neck of the woods. With all the diverse work on display, Jill and I had quite a time putting together the layout, but I think you'll agree the flow of the exhibition works very well. And while the visual work is a feast for your eyes, as far as musical talent, this year's collaboration, it does not get any better than having George Maurer Trio here tonight. I'm really pleased about that. The aim of the salon is to present to the public diverse disciplines, and I assure you that looking at a wonderful piece of etched granite while listening to George, Jeff, and Muggsy is pretty much what the salon is all about. Artists are not just painters, but musicians, writers, dancers, potters, sculptors, etc. I chose to work with the Artists Guild to expose our local audience to the talent that surrounds us, artists who also call this region home. My hope is that their patrons and friends in attendance experience a creative evening in this exceptional venue, the Great River Arts. What this building has transformed into is truly outstanding, and we are fortunate to have this facility in town. And as far as visual art, it's one of the best venues in central Minnesota, I think. I firmly believe there is a myth that arts and culture can only be found outside boundaries of smaller rural communities. Well, look around you tonight. Talk to the artists. Learn their stories. Invest in their art and be part of this evening, what this evening is all about. As you enjoy the evening, take time to engage in conversation with them. So to ensure that you all know who is who, I'm going to call everybody up on stage so you can see who they are and tell you what they do. So first off, from St. Cloud area, Michelle Feryanchek, painting. Michelle's work is the birds and the 2 cows. Ken Ferber, sculpture. Ken's work is back in the corner here. Melissa Goman, sculpture. Her work are the figurines on the table. Jill W. Kuhn, her paintings are back there, very colorful. You need to check those out. Lisa Molitor, painting and drawing. Raquel Netland, painting. Her piece is out front. It is the cow skin. Chuck Norwood, photography. Jo Savard, painting and mixed media, and her piece is just right around the corner. Now locally, from Holding Ford, I have Chris Welch and Linda Holliday, pottery. Chris does the etched granite, and Linda's pottery is set up just below the painting I did of her we just discovered back in 2003 or 4. So here we have everybody. You want to get a group shot? Oh, there we go, Linda. One more. Okay. Got all the pictures? Great. Okay, you can go back and enjoy the evening now. Thank you. These are really talented and creative people. Please engage them throughout the evening. In addition to the artists this evening comes together due to the collaborative efforts of our sponsors. Coburn's for the wine tasting, thanks to Bryce, and you have, is it? New guy, Peter. Peter, right? Travis is not here. There's also craft beer tasting provided by D&D Beverage. And my brother-in-law Wayne is an expert in beer tasting back there with Bob. So please talk to them because they can speak all things beer. Coburn's also provided food for tonight, and they are always an exceptional partner in making tonight a great night. Please join me in thanking our corporate sponsors. Okay, now I get to provide some answers to questions some of you may have about the number of National Guard members who are looking sharp in their dress blues tonight. I could tell you that, thank you. I could tell you that they are my security detail, but I don't think you'd believe me. So, but what better group to have for a guard? So now to the story. Many of you are aware of the monument I'm working on at the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery north of town. While the cemetery is regularly misidentified as being part of Camp Ripley, it is adjacent to it and is maintained by the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. And Eric, I know you appreciate that I brought that up. It's always been in contention. And the proximity does matter in that the project has ties to the salon in ways that are indeed collaborative. It was at the very first salon in 2008 where I was approached by Gordon Gerling with the possibility of doing something for the committal hall at the cemetery. From the initial conversation began my work in ties to the military in ways that I don't think either of us could have envisioned. It is important to note that the military has carefully documented their stories over centuries, documentation that has aided my research on the 5 paintings I am doing for the Veterans Cemetery. It may not be a natural course of action to think of the military and the arts together. However, visual and written documentation going back to the Egyptians, the Greeks, Romans, and up to today reflect a strong tie to the arts. In fact, as we celebrate tonight, combat artists are embedded in Afghanistan and Iraq and have visually documented wars going back decades. And as a sidebar, for 30 years, from 1974 to 2004, the artist, Mr. Benjamin Franklin Long IV, was a retired Marine Corps captain, combat artist in Vietnam, doing 2 tours, 1969 and 1971. So I've been very well aware of that. And I am included now as an official Coast Guard artist, and in July of this year proudly received a public service commendation from the Vice Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Charles Michel. So, thank you. So now back to tonight, to celebrating collaboration across disciplines. 7 years ago, when then Lieutenant Colonel Scott St. Sauber became the new post commander at Camp Ripley, I called him to introduce myself and the project. He came by my studio where I laid out the whole plan, which at the time was kind of just a concept. No big painting yet an idea of how it would go. And he had the healthy skepticism and disciplined mind of a well-trained soldier, and the willingness to learn about the project was all about. Then the first painting was completed of the Army, and I asked if he would be the featured speaker at the unveiling the Friday after Thanksgiving 2011. As I listened to his comments that day, it was very apparent he understood not only the aesthetic or the artistic elements, but also the scientific process of my work. He has been a gracious and accommodating representative of camp at subsequent events, including this one. Since then, my wife and I have gotten to know the Colonel and Deb as friends, and with his retirement this fall, after 37 years, he is on his way to enjoy what lies ahead, which I believe will include fishing. And given his retirement, there is a story to share. This past July, I got a phone call from Mr. Don Warner. He and the Colonel's staff and friends had come up with a noble idea for a gift to give to the Colonel and Deb as a way of appreciation for all they have done, not only for the camp community, but for this broader work in central Minnesota, and notably his work on behalf of veterans, much of which has to do with fishing. There's this common theme keeps coming in here. Well, about a month later, Mr. Warner called me back, and they ran into some snags with their gift idea, which put the kibosh on the whole thing. But Catherine and I talked about it and felt pretty bad that this great idea had nowhere to go, or did it? So I called Mr. Warner back, and after reassurance from him that the idea could proceed, but I would just have to do it on my own, thus removing bureaucratic and political issues that could arise. So here we are, and at this time I'd like to call up Mr. Warner and my wife Catherine first. Colonel St. Sauber and Deb. Get photo op. Okay, at this time, Colonel and Deb, stand right here. Catherine and you and Mr. Warner, please unveil what we have hidden behind door number 1. So I'd like to call the other men in uniform up, please, for a photo shoot of this. And this was a great idea that they had, and we just had to have this done. And like I said, I took it upon myself. And Mr. Warner said, the Colonel has everything, so we came up with this idea that something of yours would be appropriate. And you guys can talk about this all later on, all what went on. But so here we go. So get like, am I in the way for that? Okay. Okay.
All right, I don't have any scripted comments because I really didn't think this was going to happen. But I just want to tell you a quick story because as I retire, I do a lot of veterans advocacy work. And for all the veterans here, first of all, thank you for your service. For all of the soldiers that currently serve. Like any profession, the military is a team. Deb and I have been a team for all those 37 years doing this. But I happened to be shooting a TV show yesterday called American Heroes Outdoors that tells stories, just the stories of our local heroes and veterans, those people that live in amongst you that you don't even know, that are too humble to even tell you about their service and what they did and why. I happened to interview an Army diver, deep water diver yesterday, a young man in his early 30s. But what he brought with him to that interview was a painting. And I asked him to bring that painting, and it had his diving helmet, and it had all these small little scenes within the painting. And I asked him what that was about, and he said when he got back from the Middle East, he was having a hard time adjusting, so he went to Red Wing, Minnesota, to an art retreat weekend where they drew his story in that painting. And so in that piece, he told me that story, and I got it all on film. So next spring, here's my paid political announcement. Next spring on Fox Sports North, on Sunday mornings is our show. It's called American Heroes Outdoors. You will see that story in that collaboration that I believe, what Charles so eloquently put, between the arts and everyone in the military. So thank you for what you do. Continue to do what you do, to tell your story, and tell your story through however you portray it, because that's what we do. Ensure that you can do that. Thank you.
Okay, so to cap off my comments, as you can readily tell, collaboration across disciplines is what makes the salon what it is. At this time, the evening continues, and while introduction is not likely needed, it is necessary, and here's a bit of background and intro of tonight's truly amazing group. I can tell you that when my wife Catherine took piano lessons from Ed Turley, who was the chair of the music department at St. John's, St. Ben's, and George was George's piano professor when he went to St. John's. Ed shared with her that George's compositional methods were beyond complicated and that his thinking and creativity were unlike anything he'd seen. No kidding, George. And I'm beyond appreciative that this group is featured for the music tonight. Thank you, guys. The members of the George Maurer Trio show a lot of diversity when it comes to performing. They met right here in Little Falls back in 1996 when George was hired as music director for Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He hired a guy named Muggsy to play guitar, and they went on to play countless weddings, parties, corporate events, fairs, and festivals, driving all over the 5-state area for many years as the core of the George Maurer Jazz Group. Now in their 20th season, George, after joining Bobby V's band in 2001, has gone on to appear with Eric Clapton, Bruno Mars, Bobby V, Dick Clark, Buddy Holly's Crickets, and the original lead cast of Broadway's Jersey Boys as the music director for Midtown Men. Muggsy has played with Bob Hope, and the trio has played with the likes of Doc Severinsen, fronted the Minnesota Orchestra, and have been regular performers at the Dakota Bar and Grill, the Twin Cities' premier jazz club. Jeff and Muggsy have found recent success along with the Fabulous Armadillos in taking it to the limit, Eagles Tribute, and they have all three had great runs of shows with Collective Unconscious, performing albums in their entirety such as the Beatles' Abbey Road, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. Their latest effort is opening at Pioneer Place on 5th Avenue in St. Cloud on Wednesday, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd to recreate the band's last waltz with many special guests from the area. Muggsy swings Monday night with Monday Night Jazz Crew at Veranda Lounge in St. Cloud and is a master coffee roaster for his own Muggsy's Beans Roastery. Jeff can be seen in other tributes including Rumors and Dreams, a tribute to Fleetwood Mac, and Blimp, a Led Zeppelin tribute. He also teaches music at St. John's Preps in Collegeville. And when George isn't playing, directing, or composing music, he can be found on his bicycle traversing exotic places like Sri Lanka or Iceland, all the while raising money for cancer research. Please join me in a big welcome for George Maurer Trio and enjoy the evening.
Thanks, Charles. And thank all of you for being here. This is fantastic. Over 20 years ago, when Muggsy and I met Jeff on stage at Little Falls High School, it's the first day when the pit band meets the cast that's been rehearsing, and a pair of hairy legs with Birkenstocks came dangling over the orchestra pit, and Muggsy and I both looked up, and there was Jeff. And this musical relationship began. But we were supported greatly by this community through the years. Our first album cover had the black and white restaurant on the front cover because that's where we were playing jazz through Jeff's connections there with Ron, who's here tonight. And the Great River Arts Association had us performing with many concerts in the park. And Jeff and Muggsy and I came here a year ago almost to step in to do a holiday show. The room was this full, if not fuller. We're going to be back on December 1st. But we look at all of the artists that are here tonight, the visual artists, the supporters of the arts, our military who are here, and my sister's a member of the Air Force, and we can see how we're all connected together. And the arts are such an important thing, as Charles said, whether it's a large community or smaller communities like this, because these arts not only tell our stories, but allow people to connect with those stories and to hear the stories of people that are and organizations that are well beyond these towns. And if we can't connect with those larger stories, then we stay contained. And the arts are all about getting those stories out there. So we're glad to be here tonight. And the guys are getting ready. We're going to feature Muggsy on this first tune, and then we're going to do a number or so here, and then feel free. We're just going to slip into the background here. The rest of you can start to mingle and talk and look at more of the art, and we're just going to be here providing some background entertainment for the rest of the evening. So, Charles, thanks for having us here. All of you, thanks for being here tonight.
I've just found joy. I'm as happy as a baby boy with another brand new choo-choo toy. When I'm with my sweet Lorraine, she got a pair of eyes that are brighter than the summer sky. When I'm with her, I realize why I love my sweet Lorraine. When it's raining, I don't miss the sunshine, 'cause it's in my baby's smile. I can't believe that I'm the lucky man who's gonna lead her down the aisle. Each night I pray that no one will steal her heart away. I just can't wait until that lucky day when I marry my sweet Lorraine. George Maurer on the piano. the sunshine, 'cause it's in my baby's smile. I can't believe that I'm the lucky man who will lead her down the aisle. Well, each night I pray that no one will steal her heart away. I just can't wait until that lucky day when I marry sweet Lorraine. Lorraine, Lorraine, Lorraine. Thank you very much.